Kiska Metals is a junior exploration company. We explore for gold and copper.
The Whistler project has been here 7 years, and it's grown and has turned into a world-class gold-copper porphyry system that we're continuing to build on.
Whiskey Bravo is Kiska Metals' new base camp on the Whistler project, where Kiska Metals is going to base our exploration. Whiskey Bravo is located 160 kilometers from Anchorage. There is no road access to the camp. Being in a remote location, we do require machinery and supplies into camp. And bringing those in on our airstrip using planes can be quite expensive.
We contacted Cruise Construction.
Cruise Construction specializes in remote construction projects throughout the state of Alaska. My name is Dave Cruz, and I'm president of Cruz Companies in Alaska. Cruz Companies are engaged in construction, oil field development, and marine services in the state of Alaska.
They've got 30 years of experience building winter trails on the slope, and talked to them about coming in here and putting in a winter trail for us and bringing some equipment and supplies in for us.
We went out and met with John Lamborn and looked over the site.
This is the first time a winter trail has ever been done to this location.
There's about 160 miles of wilderness trail, so none of it's easy. It's springtime, so time is our enemy. There was some concern on whether we could actually do it. You know, there was risk of leaving equipment parked halfway between here and there.
There's a lot of potential pitfalls, a lot of difficulties, a lot of challenging terrain to get through.
We have to get done before it gets warm, because once it gets warm, the river will start to open up, and then we're done.
The first step in building a snow trail is reconnaissance of your route. We utilized maps, and then we spent several hours in the helicopter flying very close to the ground, looking over this route that we were intending on using. We selected areas that would have minimal impact to the environment. And what that is where we could run in swamps, we ran in swamps. Where we could use seismic trails, we used seismic trails. Where we had to weave through the trees, there was enough spacing already that we didn't have to take a bunch of trees out. And that was the intent behind this route, minimal impact. The second phase of this is the permitting process. So we went to State Department of Natural Resources, we met with Fish and Game, Coastal Zone Management, and the Mat-Su Borough to get everybody's approval of what we're going to do. The third phase is what we call the pioneering. And we use snowmobiles to go out first and access the trail route.
We are using existing seismograph trails, and they were all done in the real early 60s and late 70s, so we're trying to utilize that as much as we can.
At the same time, we have to check every water crossing to make sure that we have what our ice depth is, that it will support the weights that we want to take across. All these river crossings and water crossings had to be profiled.
You can measure the thickness of ice lots of ways. We use cordless drills and these 2-inch augers, and they're just a quick, fast way to drill the ice, and then just hook the bottom of the ice and measure the depth.
And that gives us the data that we need to come up with the depth of ice that we're looking for to support our equipment. The first vehicles after the pioneering process with the snow machines are our snowcats. And they make the initial pass in, packing the trail without their groomers. And what we're trying to do is knock the air out of the snow and getting it to compress down to the ground so it will support weight and will not blow out. We use 3 different machines on this project. We have a Bombardier BR-180 snowcat pulling a snowmobile trail groomer. We have a Tucker snowcat doing the same, and then we have a little Super Imp, which is a very lightweight unit that is pulling a groomer also. And these trail groomers are designed to carry snow, to grade snow, and then because of their length, if there's a low spot in the trail, they will fill that with snow. A section of the trail that we were reconstructing was an old seismic line. It was about a 5-mile area that was overgrown with second growth spruce and birch trees. We used a machine called an EnviroGroomer that is a mulcher, and what it does is grinds up vegetation above ground without disturbing the root mat. Thus, we don't have any erosion control problems later on as things thaw out. This is the lowest impact you can do to get rid of that vegetation without hurting that root mat. Before the groomers go through, it can be a wild ride on a snow machine. After the trail groomers go through, this starts to smooth out and it looks like a very nice graded trail. This again, all we are using in that grading process is the snow that is on the ground. The next step is to move the heavy equipment that we had in by walking it up the trail as far as we could get it to where we're right behind the groomers. The largest piece of equipment we had was on low ground pressure tires. It was an A30 Volvo articulated dump truck. We had 44-inch wide tires on it, and that compressed the snow following a D6 LGP dozer and a Caterpillar 315 excavator wide tracked. Safety is a #1 issue for our company and the traveling public. This trail is a multi-user trail. We saw everything from hikers, bicyclers, dog sleds, snow machiners, as well as our transport equipment using this trail. The biggest safety concern is water crossings. We have to ensure that they are strong enough to support the weight of the equipment that is going to cross them. This area has tremendous snowfall this year, and the snow does two things. It gives us a great medium to work with to smooth the trail out, make a nice, well-graded surface to run on, but it also insulates the ice so it won't thicken up like it normally would. So what we have to do is pack that snow on these crossings, get it flooded, and turn it into ice to get the ice thick enough to support the weight of equipment. On this project here, we needed to thicken the ice up to about 30 to 36 inches. So what we had to do was spend a couple of weeks thickening that ice before we could proceed across it. We did this working off of snowmobiles and drilling a 2-inch hole in the ice to check depth, and then we used an 1.5-inch pump to flood the area. After we move in our first load of the heavy equipment, then the transportation begins on fuel and supplies for the mine. The Steigers are a high-speed rubber-tracked vehicle that originated out of the agriculture industry. We modified these tractors for use in the Arctic and added a 30-ton PTO drive winch to them. We use these tractors for freighting exclusively. These tractors are unique because they are based on a rubber track and rubber suspension versus a steel track like a dozer. They engage the ground better because of the suspension that is on the tracks, allowing more drawbar pull. Our first loads with the Steigers was fuel and miscellaneous supplies. A lot of drilling mud, a lot of building materials went in on these loads. The fuel is handled in 110% containment, specially designed tankers that if the tanker was punctured in some manner, that no fuel could leak out onto the ground. It would be contained within the secondary containment that's built in on the tank. As we progressed on the project and the transportation in with the Steigers, we found it better to operate at night because of the colder temperatures. We wanted to keep our trail in good shape and did not want to damage it because of the increased sunlight, the longer days. The trail would start to get soft during the day. At night it firmed up and made travel better.
There were times, when you began to wonder, well, are we really going to be able to do this? When I saw the Steigers coming up the river, it was an exhilarating feeling. They finally made it, come 110 miles and everything's on board and nothing's broken and they're moving right along and all our crossings held up good, so it was a good deal, good feeling.
When the Steigers made it to camp on the first load, I felt a tremendous sense of accomplishment. Our personnel, Kiska folks, everybody worked extremely hard to make this project a success. To my knowledge, there's never been 112 miles of snow trail constructed in south central Alaska in this time frame.
The thing that the winter trail does is proves that it's an option to bring equipment in over land, because bringing equipment in to mine a project the size of Whistler by air is not an option. It's not economically feasible. So, you know, instead of costing $2 to $3 a pound to fly equipment in, we can do it for 30 cents a pound. And, you know, that's what logistics all boils down to in Alaska, is cost per pound. You know, Alaska is a resource-rich state. In the past, resources have been accessed by winter trails. That's the way Alaska was settled, was coming in the wintertime. It's going back to the old way of doing things to bring it into the modern way of doing things. It's an environmentally sound way to do it, and it's economically sound way to do it.
Being able to use a winter trail to get a lot of equipment, a lot of supplies in at once, reduce our costs and allows us to be more effective. We can use all the money that we spend, let's say, bringing supplies and equipment by air at a higher cost than the winter trail. We can use that money drilling more holes and expanding our exploration. So that's huge for us.
The success of the winter trail will allow Whiskey Bravo and other projects like it to expand and progress responsible resource development throughout south central Alaska.